Hey everybody, welcome back to Digi May.
Good morning. Good morning, world.
In between episodes, you told me you went to the bathroom and said, "Walk my character back to the house." I made it about halfway, and then the energy meter ran out, and your character just died in the middle of the street.
Great.
And woke up. I guess you were found unconscious, and someone was searching your pockets, so you lost money.
I see.
So
I didn't lose that much because I'm poor. They also didn't take any of my items. If you pass out away from home,
you get robbed.
They also put a stick in my inventory.
Hilarious.
Oh no, I've had that.
And you're supposed to be saving this shit-ass town, where you get robbed passing out in the middle of the road?
About that.
In a small town? That's completely unreasonable.
I'm not saving this town. I'm just gonna fuck all the bitches.
So
get them all pregnant.
So we have a couple of topics we wanted to talk about on, hey, your parsnips fucking grew.
What is a journal update? I don't fucking know, man.
I like how you have like one little patch of
I got more. I got more farmland.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a whole bunch of farmland down here. I don't think it's grown yet though.
I feel like this is all supposed to be farmland.
Nigga. I'm still in the spring. Year 1.
Yeah, the spring is when you're supposed to plant your crops.
And with what money to buy seeds? Money that gets stolen from me?
I don't know, man.
I don't know
how this game works. I haven't been paying enough attention.
It's very similar to Harvest Moon plus Terraria. That's how I would describe this game.
I've never played either of those games, so I have
Somebody
no idea.
was saying we should play Rune Story. I think that's a fucking awesome idea.
You mean, is that what it's called? Rune Story?
Rune something.
Rune Factory.
Rune Factory.
Rune Factory I have played.
Is it good? I've always wanted to play it.
It's if you combined Harvest Moon with a like action RPG. Like basically you'll be in the town doing like management stuff, and then you go out to like a dungeon and fight monsters and shit.
I mean that's what Harvest Moon is like too.
Oh. I didn't know Harvest Moon had fighting.
All the games have fighting. You go into the fucking mines and you fight, which I'm gonna do right now.
I had no idea there was combat in Harvest Moon.
Except for I have to eat something. So
I've never seen someone do like. Is that true of the original Harvest Moon?
I don't know. I don't know, but the one that I played, all have had like a combat system.
Huh? I had no idea. But Rune Factory definitely like. There's just a lot more like stat driven. It's a lot more like numbers everywhere and shit, and like leveling up and stuff like that. It's more.
I want to give a hot bitch
action.
this soda. Can I give this little boy a soda?
I played like I want to say like 6 or 7 hours
little
of Rune
boy,
Factory 4
my mermaid cock.
on the 3DS.
Come over here.
And I thought it was pretty fun, but once it got to the point where there was like too much shit to do in a day that you couldn't actually do it all, then I was just like, all right, well, I don't want to have to make decisions, so I quit. And it was also just like getting repetitive, so I didn't care anymore. But anyways, we were gonna discuss an interesting controversy going on surrounding your school. But you are currently reading and cannot hear what I'm saying.
I heard you talk about my school. I'm just mad because this quest is like, oh, bring me a parsnip, and I just put them all in my fucking chest. Oh. Can I get them out of the chest?
I see.
Okay, so basically, the babble going around at my college is concerning a tweet that was. Oh, I got a leak. Could be a leak spin.
Well, what started it? What was the beginning? Like, what started before this tweet?
Okay, this guy, he has a decal on his car, and it's of the Confederate flag.
How big is this thing?
Apparently, it's really big, because people were saying that they've seen it.
I was under the impression he was driving like a straight up Dixie car, like the whole what's the fucking
like
Starsky and Hutch.
Oh, fuck, what was that fucking called? Oh my god. Okay, I know what you're saying. I just don't know what the word is.
The one with the special horn.
Yeah, the two guys. Dukes of Hazzard.
Dukes of Hazzard. What's the name of the goddamn car? I don't know.
Fucking don't remember.
Anyway, he's got a Dixie sticker on his car.
Yeah.
And someone defaced it.
Someone graffitied on it. So he goes on Twitter and he says, shout out to the N-word that defaced my Confederate flag.
Except he didn't say N-word.
No, he
said shout out to the
it's
nigger
Twitter's fault for
for
letting people say the N-word on Twitter.
That's actually an interesting point. They could censor that.
They could censor that word.
I've never thought about the fact that like
Twitter
they allow
lets you
for
say
all
the
of the
N-word.
words you say
Yeah.
on their website.
But
yeah, he said it was that, and then
the fuck is
you'll
this?
be. He said you'll be a slave soon when Trump gets his way or something like that.
Just give Trump more time or something.
Yeah.
You can look up this tweet online. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure if you like look up controversial tweets college or something.
So this guy tweets this. Now, the interesting discussion we were having, because with the wording of the tweet, it was very important what the wording was, because when you first told me about this, I had thought, like, you told me it wrong, and you said
that's because I was told wrong.
Right.
Because I had heard this when I went to school on Tuesday, because this was what the hubbub was, and I don't go to school full time, so like I don't live on campus, I don't really know what's going on, so in class, the professor is just like, oh, have you guys heard what's going on? Everybody's like, yeah, and I'm like, wait, hold up, what's going on? I need a explanation.
Yeah.
So she's like, this person tweeted the N-word, and she basically said what the tweet was and said that he put it on like the school Twitter or something.
Right.
Like he tweeted it at the school, which made sense to me, because like I would understand why people would be upset if you tweeted it at the school and said like,
But
oh,
there's several inaccuracies in that.
so that's not true
First
at all.
of all, well, how I guess they described it to you and you described it to me at first was that he had said that this guy was gonna like get what's coming, like that. Basically, the phrasing made it sound as though he was going to come after this N-word who defaced
like
his
he was
car.
making threats towards this person,
And that he had done this like at messaging the school.
Yeah.
Neither of which is the case.
No.
He says the name. He says shout out to the N-word at the school. Like he didn't. He did not at message the school. He says like at the name of school, and then he says, he says you'll be a slave once Trump gets his way.
Yeah.
My words. So this dude is obviously some fucking alt-right douchebag. Like
He's a pissed off racist idiot.
Yeah. And he's obviously into the whole like the memery of Trump.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
Just everything about the way his tweet is phrased and the fact that it's even on Twitter is like obviously some fucking alt-right dickwad, right? And I don't use that phrase lightly. I know what the alt-right actually is. I don't just throw that around. This dude is definitely that.
Yeah,
like there's no denying
you
that.
can easily classify
And he's also definitely a douchebag.
Yes.
But like the thing is, it's not a threat and it's not at the school.
This is just on this guy's Twitter. The only people who would have seen it are his friends and probably his family. People who know how he is. People who are able to put up with it. So some kid, I guess, just stumbles on it and takes a screenshot of it and then puts it on his Facebook. And he's like a really popular kid at the school, so he has like a lot of friends. Kind of I fucking forgot what the word is.
Socialite?
No. He's like a influencer. Like that's what I would describe you as. Like somebody who has a lot of followers who people listen to what they're saying.
I'm a digital influencer.
You are, but this kid's also a digital influencer.
He's a real life influencer.
Influencer is the correct term. So this influencer kid puts it on his Facebook and then he sends it to the college too. He sends it to like the president and somebody else. Like he sends a screenshot of that. And the school messages him back like, we'll take care of this. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. And basically afterwards, the school like released a statement saying like, this doesn't align with our college's values, and like we're going to talk to this kid basically.
Right.
And there is like a lot of outrage at the school because people think that the school should have done more. Like should have punished this kid or expelled
the school
kid.
ultimately did not expel the kid.
No,
or punish him.
he's still welcome to go to school, but he doesn't show up to class anymore because there's been death threats.
Well, here's where this story gets interesting to me, because this kid said some shitty stuff about an anonymous stranger.
Mm-hmm.
But the things he said are not a threat. If anything, it's kind of a joke.
Yeah.
And it's based in...
Well, we don't know if it's a joke, but like from I know about people who say stuff like that is, this kid's just pissed off and like...
He's being a fucking dick, but like, what, he can't actually enslave the guy.
Yeah.
He said give Trump time, like, what the fuck ever. The reason for this tweet is that this guy is upset that his car was defaced. Which
is completely reasonable.
Right, and granted, should he have this sticker on his car? Probably not.
No,
You're
but
probably
going to
get your car defaced if you have this sticker on your car.
Yeah.
But that is all separate from, like, the issue of why did he tweet this? Because he's mad that somebody defaced his car. Understandable.
Mm-hmm.
And he's posting it to his own private Twitter as a joke, or at least just to vent frustration.
Yeah.
And the response from students is he should either A, be expelled or be killed.
Yeah.
People want him dead.
People have been sending him death threats. Like, he is afraid to come to school. The school has had open forums about, like, what should be done. But the thing is, like, I go to a community college. It's a public school. It's funded by the government. So for the school to do anything at all would be against a violation of his rights. Like, this was just on his fucking Twitter, and like what he said was fucked up and he's an idiot, but the school can't do anything. And the fact that people think that the school should do something, it just shows you how retarded the people I go to school with are.
Right.
Like,
well, it's a classic case of, like, just immediately, without thinking, without putting any amount of consideration into what you're saying, just going, this person offended me and now their entire life is void.
Yeah.
They have no rights, they have no anything, because I don't like the tone of what they said.
They said a word I don't like, so their whole life should be ruined. They should never have a job, they shouldn't be able to go to college.
Because the guy said the N-word, which is, by the way, nigger. I don't like saying the word the N-word.
Me neither, but I don't want somebody to ruin my life because I said it.
Well, they can go ahead and attack me.
Like, I will never stop saying nigga.
Right.
Like, that is a word that I'm allowed to say, and if you don't think I'm allowed to say it, then fucking don't listen to me.
Right. But, like, I really hate saying the N-word just because of that, I think it was Louis C.K. who had that joke about how, like, by saying it, you're putting the word in the person's head anyways. Yeah. You're just saying it without saying it, you know?
Yeah.
And you don't have to say that it was the N-word. You could just say he used, a racial slur, you know? But, like...
No, but there's a lot of racial slurs. Like,
that's true.
You have to specify that it... Like, I don't know how else you would be able to say it without saying it.
What really cracks me up about everyone, like, flipping shit every time somebody says nigger is that... Like, we all know the word.
Yeah.
We, like, when the fact that it's such a meme that everyone's like, oh, that's the word you can't say. It's like, do you understand how cartoony that is? That there's a word we all understand what it means.
You can't say Voldemort.
And the only, it's exactly like Voldemort, where it doesn't actually do anything. And Harry, by the end of the series, is like, fuck you guys, I'm gonna say his name all I fucking want. That's my favorite thing in Harry Potter, is Harry constantly saying Voldemort and freaking everybody out. Because he's not too much of a pussy to say the fucking word, you know? Like, God, it just makes me so fucking angry every time a controversy springs up about this. Because we all know that it's not a big deal, but that if you say it, you just have to be killed. You know? That, like, with PewDiePie, everyone understands that he's just a dude playing a video game and a word slips out of his mouth because he's pissed off, and you find the most offensive words you can say. You know? That's what you do when you're mad. It's the same thing with the stupid fucking Hulk Hogan controversy. Go watch Jesse's video on it. The fucking, either the title, like, if you want the short version, the video Nigger Mania is running wild, and if you want the long version, What You Gonna Do, which is the better video, but it is a quite a watch. It is an experience, and it's one of my favorite YouTube videos.
Amazing.
But it was basically about this, that, like, this dude is just pissed off because someone defaced his car and choosing the most offensive language he can, which he has every right to do on his fucking Twitter, you know? Like, to an audience of other jackasses, you know? But he hasn't committed an act of violence here. And people are like, oh, he should be fucking killed. Like, do you not understand how that is vastly more offensive?
Yeah, the people who are sending him death threats
should be expelled
because that's not protected speech.
First of all, it's fucking crime.
Yeah,
and
it's just as bad as what that kid is saying.
Right.
And it's illegal. And the school can do something about it. And, like, it's creating an unsafe environment. People are upset because they feel like his tweet created an unsafe environment. It doesn't matter what that kid tweeted because people actually hold views like that. And, like, regardless if he tweeted that or not, the sentiment is still there. You know, you can't erase people who have different viewpoints than you.
Yeah, like, you can say, is the school gonna say, if you're, like, if you're racist, you can't go to school here? Like, are we gonna have our government make a stance that...
If this government does that, it's just gonna make people racist.
Yeah.
It's gonna make people, like, more radicalized.
Yeah.
When people are persecuted, like, for their beliefs, which we're all entitled to have beliefs and opinions, if people feel persecuted for that, it just makes them radicalized. That's why there are radical terrorists. Like, yes, racism is bad. Like, I'm not saying, like, you should be racist and that, like, we should let that happen.
But you also shouldn't tell people that they deserve to die for expressing an opinion. The way that I think
society should handle things like this is to have a discussion.
Yeah.
Like, to be like, well, why do you think this way? Why did you tweet this? Instead of, this kid should die, we should have a forum about why this kid should die, why we should expel him.
No. Because everybody just wants to get rid of the problem.
Yeah.
They just want to be like, get it away from me.
Nobody wants to, like, actually work through the problem versus they just want to eliminate it.
And it just, I was so, like, every time with the death threats thing, it's like, I don't understand how people don't get that is so much worse than what this guy made an off-color statement about race, you know, like, it's offensive, it's not a good idea, but he's not threatening anybody, and he's not committing a crime.
If this kid did threaten somebody, do you know how off the walls people would go?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's why when you first told me the tweet, and you had phrased it as though he did threaten him, I was like, yeah, expel him. Like, if it's even a mild threat, if it's even a suggestion of a threat, I'd be like, that guy's dangerous. Mm-hmm. Like, if he's implying that he is going to go hurt this dude, then get him the fuck out of there. But he did not imply he was going to hurt him. He said, you'll be a slave when Trump gets his way.
Which I almost guarantee wasn't serious.
Which is, it's a fucking alt-right meme, you know?
Yeah.
I'll bet this dude's got a fucking Kekistan flag on his car, too. Fucking idiot. But, you know, it's just every time. And it's the same thing. This was a big thing when, Trump got elected, that there was lots of people, like, demanding his assassination and stuff. And it's like, you can't joke about that. Like, that's or you can't say that. Like, that is illegal. And, like, there's a lot of people getting talked to by the FBI in the wake of that. Because they will come talk to you. That will happen. Someone, I think it was someone on the Dick Show who told a story about how, like, it was either them or somebody they know, like, actually got, like, an FBI visit for, like...
That's fucking hilarious.
For saying something like that.
Oh my god.
Yeah, not a good idea.
No.
But anyway, yeah, it's just one more case, and the only reason I, like... this is something that's happened a bunch, and it's been talked about a bunch, but, like, I just want to be on the side of people who come out and state that this is a bad thing. Like, yes, with this, like, I'm not supporting this kid, but, like, now his fucking... He's dealing with so much worse than what the crime he committed is. Yeah. You know? The crime he committed was being a fucking asshole. He didn't commit a crime, he was just being a fucking idiot. Yeah. Which we have the right to do. We have the right to be idiots. Like... Right. It would be different if it was, like... again, if it was, like, actually at the school, or if it was somehow tied to the school's accounts or something, or, like, if it was... I could even understand him losing a job over a tweet like this. Yeah, if he worked on campus, like, yeah, go ahead and fire him, because, like, that shouldn't be what you represent. Like, the organization should probably, like, not represent that, but he's going to a fucking community college. Yeah, like, and people are talking about, denying him the ability to continue his education because he made a racist tweet. Yeah. Or denying him, like, apparently his sister's getting bullied now. His, like, sister, who's, like, 12 years old, is getting, like, terribly bullied. That's just fucked up. Yeah. And that's, I mean, I don't even have to explain why that's fucked up. I think even your classmates would agree that's fucked up, even people who want him expelled would be like, why the fuck does his sister have anything to do with this,
Yeah.
you know? So, yeah, I just hate seeing people get, like, completely raked over the coals because they said a stupid tweet, you know? To address to nobody, you know? Like, address to just, like, the general air of whoever happened to fuck with my car, you know?
Yep.
I hope I can fucking... If someone... I think I said this to you in the restaurant. I was like, it doesn't matter... It doesn't matter what race they are. If someone defaces my car, they're a fucking nigger.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with their race. Oh, man.
That's how it should be, though.
Yeah. All right. Well, another topic. One that won't require me to say the N-word so many times.
Yeah, this video is demonetized.
Almost definitely.
Oh no, it's definitely. Like, there's no question about whether or not this is demonetized.
Okay.
You are a foolish man if you think there's even a slight possibility.
So here's something we've sort of touched on before, but I wanted to go more in depth about it. Fan fiction and role plays.
Yeah.
Both of us have done a lot. And
this is exciting shit.
So this came up on Vic and Hope's Shadows of the Damned Let's Play.
Which episode? I've only seen like
one
two
of the
of
newer
the new ones.
I don't remember which one, but like there's one episode where Hope was talking about her history with fan fiction because she had written an Inuyasha fanfic when she was in like middle school,
glorious.
Where it was like self-insert and all the it was her and all of her friends were there with Inuyasha characters, and she of course was dating Inuyasha. Her friend was dating Koga. I don't know if you know Inuyasha characters
a little
at
bit,
all, but
I know the baseline. I know Inuyasha.
So it's just that sort of basic fanfic, and she wrote a lot of fan fiction and like drew a lot of fan art back in the day. And Victor has never done any fan content because he's always been like strictly about original content and stuff like that.
Weird.
Apparently, like he's just always thought it was pointless to do fan work. Which, yeah, I can't think of a time he ever contradicted that. Like, I've read lots of original stories from Victor back in the day. But you and I wrote plenty of fanfics, I think.
Yeah, I wrote, like, I'd say more fan art than fan fiction, but I definitely have written fan fiction. And I've definitely, like, way more of a role player because I like to have my own original characters, but I love to, like, create characters in a universe that already existed that, like, I loved and...
Right.
Like, I like to explore universes that had already existed.
Like, I guess we can do these as two separate topics, the fanfics and the role plays. But I want to do fanfics first. Because Victor brought up, I have a well-known story about the Tales of Symphonia erotic fanfic I wrote when I was 14. But I've never, like, I've talked about that one so much just because it's porn. I've never talked about my other fanfics as much.
This is fucking exciting, guys.
So I guess I want each of us to go through our history of fanfictions from the start.
All right.
So, like, what was your first fanfic?
My first fanfiction
that you remember?
Probably, like, Pokemon fanfictions.
Oh, wow.
It started because, like, my sick lifestyle, it started because my mom, she used to, like do bedtime stories, but it was kind of like we would each add, like, a different component to it. And, like, the first one that she, like, told me that I remember a whole lot was, like, a Pokemon story. And it was, like, had Misty and fucking Brock on it. And, she just kept, like, elaborating on that story, and then me and my sister would, like, come up with new characters or, like, what Pokemon they would catch and yada yada yada, and it was pretty fucking fun. So I've written a couple Pokemon fan fictions. Not most of them didn't include, like, major characters, usually, like, side characters. Right. I think I wrote one that had Tracy in it.
I feel like it's rare for fanfics to be about main characters.
Yeah, usually the main thing of fan fiction is, like, self-insert characters.
Well, that and also, like, wanting to tell stories in the universe that didn't get to be explored by a show.
Yeah,
you know, like if there's a side character you really love that didn't get enough screen time.
That's, like, the good fan fictions.
Yeah.
Most fan fictions aren't good.
Most of my early fanfics were more like me... I would say there's several genres of fanfics. There's ones that try to fill in something that's missing from the show. Then there's ones that are, the self-serving ones or porn. Mm-hmm. And then there's the ones that try to recreate the show, where like you're basically trying to do your own episode or your own installment, as if it was real. And that was more my style. But yeah, so anyway, continue with your...
So I had some Pokemon ones I don't really remember. They were pretty shitty. I made a Teen Titans
How old were you?
fanfic. The Pokemon stuff was probably like when I was 12.
Okay. Teen Titans,
Teen Titans fanfic.
What was your Teen Titans fanfic about?
It was something about Starfire. I was inspired by the episode where she like went through many metamorphoses, and I was very like sexually excited by Starfire.
Were you more a fan of Starfire or Raven?
Starfire, even though everybody told me I was more like Raven.
Well, that's the funny thing about, especially that you said that just now, is that I think you're way more like Starfire.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm not at all surprised that you like her more, even though it's a really uncommon opinion. Like, almost everybody, like, Raven is, like, most people's favorite character in Teen Titans. And I wouldn't say that I had a particular preference at the time, because I was still in my, like, no girls phase. Yeah. But that show was on the TV.
Starfire is mega hotter than Raven. Anybody who disagrees, come at me. Fucking come at me.
I'm inclined to agree, because I think I like her skin color more.
She's
Raven's
awesome.
kind of weird looking.
She's an awesome character design. She's super creative. Her power is creative. The way she communicates is creative. Her personality is really fun. Raven's just a sad girl. Yeah. She's cool. She's a cool fucking girl. I can see people like her.
I mean, the reason people like her is because she's got more, like, emotional depth and stuff. Like, Starfire's kind of retarded, but like,
which is fine.
That's fine.
That's fine.
But anyways, so you wrote a Teen Titans fanfic about Starfire.
About Starfire. And then, my other fan fictions were all fucking Warrior Cats. I have a smorgasbord of Warrior Cats fan fiction. I started writing 2 of my own Warrior Cat fan fiction books. How
involved were the actual characters of Warrior Cats in your books?
I created my own like clans.
Okay.
So it was basically just the structure of how the books were written and like how the groups of cats were organized. And I just kind of took that structure and then made my own characters, but a lot of them were just like, I had a self-insert character who wasn't a main character, just a side character. And the whole entire story was she was a young, like, kid.
Right.
And, like, basically what was happening was there was, like, a big natural disaster going on, and all these wild cats had to come together and, like, figure out how to survive. So she was a little baby, and she didn't know what was going on. But it's all about, like, how these cats all came together and shit, and it was really fucking cool. But
you look so excited telling me about this.
Yeah, and nobody fucking knows what I'm talking about.
No, I have no idea what you're talking about, but you look really excited.
I'm super into fucking Warrior Cats. I was. And I had 2 books, and then I also, like, had an ongoing... The 2 books were shitty. Mm-hmm. Like, they were, like, not good books.
Would you say that this falls into the category of, like, trying to just recreate what the actual books were, but with your own characters?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I got a little bit older, and I tried it again.
Uh-huh.
And this was the really edgy one where the cat gets run over by a lawnmower.
Jesus
I don't know
Christ.
if I talked about this on the show or not. But
I think you mentioned that before.
Yeah, it's posted on Warrior's Wish somewhere, and I was gonna make an animation.
Warrior's Wish. Is that still up?
Warrior's Wish is still a site. I don't know if you can find my fanfic. My name was like Bubble Paw. I think.
Is this on like a forum or something? Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I had my.
Did you ever post the stuff to fanfiction.net?
I don't think I had anything posted on fanfiction.net, but I had an account. I don't think. Will I adopt this cat? Baby.
Do you want a warrior cat?
Yeah, I want a warrior cat. Miso! Ah!
You just went right for it.
That's a great fucking name. If we ever get a cat, I want to name it Bougie, by the way.
Bougie?
Yeah.
Like bad and bougie?
Yes.
That would be a better name for, well, I guess the hamster was Bijou, not Bougie.
But yeah, if we ever had to have a cat, I would be okay with it.
For some reason, we're forced to have a cat.
Yeah, our kid finds like a stray cat, and we're like, well, we can't just say no.
And that motherfucker will... Honey, I wanted to keep your cat.
Sorry, but the lawnmower got...
Well, I was driving by a bridge, and it just jumped right off the bridge. I don't know what's going on. Do you think you would murder an animal?
Would I murder... What kind of question is that? Do you know who you're talking to?
Would you murder a cat?
Would I murder a cat?
If you were trying to get rid of it.
No, probably not. I'd probably just leave it in the woods. Why would I have to go through the length of murdering it?
I don't know.
It sounds like a lot of effort.
I know people who've done that.
It sounds like a lot of effort when you could just have it go in the wild and it'll die anyways.
Yeah. My mom has a story.
Unless that cat kept coming back.
My mom had a story about like a boyfriend or something, or someone she lived with earlier in life, who had thrown her cat over the fence because the neighbor had like a giant dog that would eat the dog horribly murdered the cat, and it was just because he wanted to get rid of it, so he just tossed it over the fence so that it would get killed.
That's
I didn't
fucked.
admit it until like a decade or like
fucked,
2
but
decades
it's also
later.
pretty fucking awesome.
It's a good story, but a terrible, terrible event that happened.
Yeah.
Anyways, so you wrote Warrior Cats fanfics.
Yeah.
I'll go into my early stuff, cause like the earliest, since you brought up like your Pokemon, your mom like telling you stories, like the earliest kind of storytelling I remember me and Victor doing was we did a lot of like action figure stories.
Yeah.
Like when we played with toys, we didn't do it that often. When we did, there was always a narrative, and it was always some kind of like hyper emotional narrative.
That's such a boy thing to do.
Yeah.
So cute.
And like, well, the thing is, because Victor was a really emotional kid who got really emotionally attached to anything immediately.
Aww.
So we could tell a story, and if a character in the story dies, Victor's gonna cry. Like, over, like, even if they have no development whatsoever, it's just that it's a character. And we usually had, like, lots of heroic sacrifices and stuff in our Toy Story. Like, the first one I remember was called Cars, because we were playing with cars.
Yeah.
And it was just, like, the cars had personalities, I guess, and, like, it was tragic, and Victor would get so emotionally invested in the stories that it made it entertaining.
So cute.
So we played with toys sometimes and like created stories, and then basically when I was in the well, I guess I would have been like 10 or 11 years old was when I wrote that magazine that I've talked about. And at the time, I also wanted to, like, I wanted to be a game designer, and like at the same time that I was writing that magazine, I was also trying to, like, invent a game called Puzzling. And it was basically a Zelda clone, but the unique property of this game was that in each stage you would start by doing a block-pushing puzzle. And, like, once you did that, it would activate all the enemies in the stage and all the stuff, and then you'd go through and play it. Which I guess I thought was super clever. And this was entirely based on the part in Ocarina of Time where... You've played the Ocarina of Time, right? Yes. I watched it.
I've played through it and watched it played.
You remember in the Forest Temple how you have to do the block pushing puzzle to make the ghosts appear?
Oh shit, yeah.
That was basically the entire inspiration of my game. So, like, and I would just draw, like, I would draw the levels, like, draw out, like, a level map, and then write a game FAQ style, like, how to beat the level, and that was my idea of game design.
Yeah.
And that I was going to submit all this and get $2 million from Shigeru Miyamoto. But in the meantime, because I've told that story before, but I also was writing a novel sequel.
Yeah.
So my book was called Puzzling 2 Golden Fantasies. The golden coming from Golden Sun, and the fantasies coming from Final Fantasy.
So clever.
Never had played Final Fantasy,
So
but those two were the
clever.
most famous RPGs, so I saw it as, like, you know, paying homage to those. And the story was heavily based on Golden Sun. Like, my idea of what an RPG story was pretty much entirely informed by that game, because it was the only one I'd played. So it was about the, like, the son and daughter of the main character from the from the game.
Yeah.
And they were going on basically their town gets destroyed in the beginning, and they have to go on an adventure, and they team up with 2 other, like, guys, and each chapter would basically be like they show up and they fight somebody. Like they show up in some new location and they fight some boss, and then they go to the next one, and eventually some characters die, and, like, they have to, you know, but, like, this book was intended to be, like, I think 100 pages handwritten, and I think I got through, like, 30 of them or something like that. Like, I wrote a not insignificant portion of this story on lined paper, of course.
Of course.
You know, handwritten on lined paper, and I would write it during like study block in 6th grade. So, but that's not a fan fiction. I'm just establishing the early, like, what I was doing around the time. So the first fan fiction I wrote was for The Legend of Zelda, and I think this is still on fanfiction.net. If you search the name, I think it might be Tycall Ultimate. It's either Tycall or Tycall Ultimate, which you'll recognize as the name of the URL for Modal Soul Productions still, because that was the original name of the channel. And it was, which by the way, Tycall was the name of the main character from Puzzling. So for years online, my name was Tycall. And that was just a random name I'd come up with. Like, I didn't know it was also the name of a Method Man album until much later, but yeah, Tycall was my internet handle, as well as the main character of Puzzling. And so, that's Tical. If anybody's trying to find it on fanfiction.net right now. So I wrote this Zelda fanfic where it was, each chapter was about a page, and each one was just about Link beating one of the bad guys from Zelda. Like, but like mostly it was like a gauntlet of all the final bosses. Because like Ganondorf is obviously the real, like the main guy, like the big one. Like Ganon is the big one. But then there's also like the wizard from A Link to the Past, and then there's like the bad guy from, I don't think the Minish Cap existed yet, but like there was a few, you know, main villains, and it was just like each chapter was, I think Link was climbing a mountain, and each time he got a little further up the mountain, there'd be another boss, and he'd kill them. Yeah. And like, of course, most of the point of it was to describe the different ways that Link killed each guy. Like, one guy gets cut in half, one guy gets like decapitated. Because to me, the coolest thing in the world was just like unique ways for people to get killed.
Yeah, wasn't there that fucking show 100 Ways to Die on Spike? You never fucking watched that show. No. I think it's 1,000 Ways to Die, actually.
No, yes. I don't mean real life.
No,
I'm talking about anime.
I know, baby.
Like there's a scene in Samurai X in the Rurouni Kenshin prequel OVA where Kenshin, like, this dude is flying at him like with like chains, and Kenshin cuts him in half vertically, and I thought it was the coolest shit in the world. Like, just like the idea of getting cut in half in a different way from normal was like awesome. So yeah, it was a Zelda fanfic mostly about Link just killing all the bosses.
Yeah.
And that was my first one. And then it might have been right from there into the Tales of Symphonia ones. Because, like, I don't remember any others. But, like, I think I might have had, like, one Safe for Work Tales of Symphonia one.
Yeah.
And then there was, like, the 8-chapter big pornographic one. And then there was this other one that's also, like, borderline pornographic, though it wasn't intended to be, like... It wasn't really intended to be that. It was more supposed to be like a Sin City kind of thing, but there was just like tons and tons of rape. Like, it was basically just a story of... It's called the Meltokyo Slums, and you can definitely find it on fanfiction.net still. You can't find the one that was outright porn, because they, at one point, fanfiction.net purged all the porn off the website. But you can still find the Meltokyo Slums, which is only barely not porn.
Only barely.
And I read through it, like, I want to say, like, a year ago. I, like, found this again when, like, I think it was because me and Devu were doing a commentary, and I went looking for it, and I found the Meltokyo Slums, and I was reading it, and I was like, oh my god, there is so much rape in this. Like, this is fucking weird. Like, it made me uncomfortable. Something I wrote 10 years ago made me uncomfortable now.
That's really impressive.
But yeah. What other fan fictions? I feel like I've done... Oh, well, I know some that come later, but do you want to continue your... Do you have any after Warrior Cats?
Not really, no.
No?
I was not excluding the things that I wrote about fucking you. No, I'm just joking. Would that count as fan fiction?
If you wrote an erotic story about you and I before you knew me, then yes, that's fan fiction.
I didn't, but I wish I had.
So I don't remember if I wrote any other... Okay, well, I've done a few super short fanfics on my old anime blogs because one of the ways I was trying to practice as a fiction writer was to write like ultra short stories. Like I've always been best at flash fiction, which is like 55 words or less, like just like churn out like a 1-page story, and I really love doing those. And I'd love to get back into doing those. I was planning to start up a flash fiction series on After Dark, but I forgot because I started touring the country. But anyways, I was writing flash fictions, and I started writing some that were like just quick anime fanfics. There was one called Hatsune Miku Save the Space, where it was just like a really intense action story between Hatsune Miku fighting someone like with crazy weapons, and like all of my stories involved like going way beyond like the impossible levels of like destroying the universe kind of shit. Like, they would always involve, like, reality breaking and stuff like that. And, like, fighting in the outskirts of dimensions and shit. Like,
I got a fucking fish.
I was never satisfied with the confines of our universe, essentially.
Yeah.
So there's Hatsune Miku Save the Space, which was also partially based on the song The Space for This by the band Cynic. All of my stories ever have tons of musical references. Like, they always have lyrics in them and random, like, references to songs and shit. So then there was one that was inspired by the song Battlefield by Blind Guardian. Both of those songs on my top 5 extreme metal playlist, which I didn't even put that together. But, or no, it wasn't Battlefield. And then there was Silence that was on my playlist. But Battlefield's from the same album. And it was a song about Manabi from Manabi Strait, or a fanfiction rather, about Manabi, like going back in time to like fight in an ancient war or something like that. Like Manabi Strait was like leading an army.
Oh my god.
And like basically the entire point of this short story was so that Manabi could be on the front lines of an army and scream, "Masugu, go!" and everybody charges. And that was like the main reason I wanted the story to exist.
That's great.
There was a Toradora erotic fanfiction called Taiga Power, the intentions of which was to be a female-oriented porn, which basically just means that, you know, Ryuji eats her pussy and fingers her before they have sex. And, I don't know. In my mind, it was a female-oriented porn, and that's what I was going for. However, it is also a story which contains probably the greatest thing I've ever written, which is I use a lot of line breaks in my writing.
Yeah.
So, when I say this, I want you to imagine it with like each of these is its own line break paragraph. Ryuji's about to like put his cock inside of Taiga. I don't know if you know anything about Toradora.
I know the characters.
But Ryuji's about to fuck her, and it just this line breaks, and it just says, "Aim, plunge." All caps and bold. Aim, plunge. Female-oriented pornography, baby.
Yep. Yep. That's what we like.
Yep. You like that aim, plunge. You can still find that on my blog, I think.
Fucking
I might have set it to
amazing.
private, actually, when I privatized most of my cringeworthy erotic shit. And then I had an alternate anime blog called Subterranean, something Subterranean Dreams, or no, Suspended Animation Dreams, which was named after an album by the band Subterranean Masquerade, which was just a second anime blog that I had that was supposed to be more experimental and had multiple writers. And I wrote some fanfics on there where I literally took some of my favorite porn images and tried to tell the story of how it got to that point.
Yeah.
Like there's one where it's just like this dude fucking two girls, like they like a bigger guy fucking two hot teenage chicks, and like I was basically created this story that like he had trapped them in some kind of like drug ring or something like that, you know, and like they were like his fucking sex slaves and stuff. And, yeah, I had a bunch of stories. Well, probably only like 2 or 3, but I had a few stories of that nature. So I guess that kind of counts as fanfics. Oh my god, you caught a fish.
I caught a second fish. It's a new record.
Oh my fucking god. So, I like how you're just carrying it around, like, yeah!
I'm gonna give it to my cat.
Look at my fucking fish!
Should I give the shitty fish to my cat? And
Will that actually work? Will it?
Yeah, I feel like the cat would eat the fish.
I mean, you could make money off the fish, probably, so you're not so
I don't know what the
fucking
cat
poor.
does. I feel like the fish go... Yeah. I'm not that poor. I'm farming. I'm making some monies. I'm poor right now because I just bought a whole lot of seeds.
I see.
I think I figured out this game a little bit more.
I'm trying to think if I had any more fanfics around that time. I want to say, I mean, I've written some stories that were, like, heavily inspired by anime. Like, I wrote one that was basically Welcome to the NHK.
Mm-hmm. Oops.
Don't remember any others from that era. But there's one more big fanfic period I had.
Yeah.
Which is when a little series came along called My Little Pony Friendship is Magic.
Oh, boy.
It had a big fanfiction community around it, and I was friends with a bunch of fanfic authors. So the first MLP fanfic I wrote was like, in fact, I wrote several from the perspective of my character, making observations about, like, Pinkie Pie and Applejack or something like that, like, as though he lived in the world. There was one where my character was in love with Pinkie Pie, and it's literally him, like, writing a creepy, stalkery soliloquy about his love for Pinkie Pie. But there was a much more important fanfiction I also worked on that I think I wrote 3 chapters of that you can find on Fanfiction, if that website is still up, which is a My Little Pony fanfic website, called, it was about Pinkie Pie having really bad tooth decay. And it was supposed to be an adventure story about how Pinkie Pie needs to brush her teeth. And basically the idea of the story is because I have the worst, I don't brush my teeth and my teeth are terrible. And I wanted to I wanted to write like a legitimate children's story.
I've heard this before.
Yeah.
When did you talk about this?
Somewhere, I'm sure. But like, I wanted to write an actual children's story to like tell kids they should brush their teeth, unlike me. And it's full of, like, everything in it is either a pun or some kind of alliteration joke.
Yeah.
So like, for instance, Pinkie Pie, when she has this like horrible plaque that like the dentist can't get off her teeth, so they go to the Royal Library, and the dentist has to pull out the Placronomicon in order to figure out what the problem is.
Yes.
And it turns out she has a disease called the Plaque Death. And
that's great.
Yeah, it's
fucking genius.
The whole thing is just stupid puns. And yeah, it was supposed to be this adventure story where, like, each chapter would focus on another character's, like, approach to tooth, like, health and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I only wrote a couple chapters, but I had the whole thing planned out somewhere. And I think I might have wrote another short fanfic on Fanfiction, but I don't remember what it was if I did. I know I can remember a bunch that I read, but not if I wrote another one. But yeah, that's the last fanfic I remember doing. I would be interested in doing more because, like, for most people, fanfiction is all about like training as a writer. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, you know, if you're super young, it's just because you want to fucking write about your favorite shows. But like, in the MLP community especially, it was a lot of aspiring writers who were like testing the waters of what they could do with fanfictions. And
this is making me want to like write or roleplay.
I know, right? Me too. But like, my friend Ghost Lightning would often do these really interesting blog posts where he would do like a fan fiction style post where he would write himself into the universe of the show and like have conversations with the characters about other characters. There was one where it was him, like, basically he had just slept with one of the girls from Gurren Lagann, and they're like smoking at the bedside having a conversation about one of the other characters, and it's very like film noir feeling. And I always wanted to replicate that, but I never, which I think is what I was going for with the one where my pony was in love with Pinkie Pie. Like, I think I was going for that same kind of atmosphere, but like, you know, I didn't end up exploring it that much. But I think there's a lot of interesting ways you can use fan fiction.
I do too.
Well, yeah, that's all my fanfic stories.
Fucking crazy.
You ever had a fanfic written about you?
No.
I have.
Of course
I've had a few. Back in the pony days. There's even some dramatic readings I've done, some of which are of gay pornography of me and Tommy Oliver. So if you ever want to hear me read gay porn about me and Tom's ponies fucking, go to... Actually, I don't know if you can find those anymore because they're all unlisted.
I want to listen to that.
I don't know if my After Dark pony content is in a playlist or not. It might be. I'm sure you can find it. I'm sure it's been re-uploaded or something. But, yeah, so role-playing.
Oh, boy.
Because they only talked about fanfics, but we have done a lot more role-playing.
Yeah, way into role-playing.
So tell me about some of your favorite role-plays.
So...
Whoa, what's happening here?
There's
Was this
the
here
Egg
before?
Festival.
Oh.
Plush bunny. I don't have money to buy it. Oh, there's strawberry seeds. Strawberry. I'm sorry.
Tell me about your fanfic.
My favorite place to fucking roleplay was neopets.com, which I have talked about extensively in the past.
Apparently Hope was on Neopets too.
Everybody was on Neopets. I'm surprised you weren't.
I didn't understand it.
You're a little bit older. Like, I don't know. I think you would have.
Hope's almost my age.
Yeah, I think you would have definitely enjoyed Neopets if you like played it. But it's
I think I didn't understand what. I think the reason I never got into Neopets is that I thought it was supposed to be a game, and I couldn't figure out how to make the game work.
Yeah.
Because I remember going to the website and trying to find the game and not understanding that it was not a game.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like a Tamagotchi on a browser or something.
Basically, and the whole entire thing is like raising money. You get money by playing like games that are on the website, but the games aren't really that fun. They're not like some of the games are like addictive.
I think that's why.
But there's like one Bejeweled clone. There's like.
Because all the communities I was in were about something. Like,
Yeah.
I was in anime communities that were talking about anime. Like, I was never in, like, I mean, I had a very brief stint in Gaia, but, like, a little older than...
Yeah.
I was, like, 14, and, like, I got in and was like, oh, this is stupid, you know? Like, I was not really a part of many forums that existed for the sake of being forums.
Mm-hmm.
But, tell me about your
Neopets
role
was
plays.
fucking great.
Are you doing, like, an egg hunt or
Yeah,
something?
I'm looking for eggs. I have no idea what.
There it
that
is,
an egg?
bottom.
So, I was on Neopets a whole lot, and there was like a forum community, but you had to be like a certain age. It'd be 13.
Is that one in that fence over there?
This thing? That's what I thought.
Yeah, I think that's...
So you had to be like 13 to actually be able to roleplay. So I made like a fake account.
Of course.
That was 13 plus, but my real account was my younger account, and it had my actual Neopets on it because my Neopets were fucking like buff.
Right there behind the house.
There was also another one. They don't have a lot of time, but so I was on fucking Neopets all the time. Like, that's how I spend all of my time. I come home from school and play like hours and hours in Neopets, and a lot of the time I would go onto the forums, and they had like a whole bunch of different categories of forums. They had people just talking about Neopets in general, like how to make money. They had just like generic general talking, and then they had a role-playing section. And I was super fucking addicted to the role-playing section. Like, I started off with like high school role plays where you'd basically create a high school character and role play a high school.
Yeah,
and everybody
I've seen
playing
those.
it was not high schoolers. They were all like middle schoolers, like, oh, this is what I want to be like when I'm in high school.
Right.
And then I also I liked playing popular girls, like Mean Girls role plays.
I see.
And I also liked doing like DNA infused teenagers, like
What?
animal teenagers who were like in some kind of facility.
So, Animorphs or something.
Yeah, sort of, but I was never super into Animorphs, but I guess that's probably Animorphs. And then I discovered there's like a small and emerging Neopets role-playing community, and it was all over after I discovered that. So I roleplayed Neopets extensively on there. I also roleplayed Pokemon a little bit too. I was part of I was on a Pokemon role-playing website for a bit. The mascot was like a Raichu. It was a pretty popular site. I forgot what it was called though. And then Warrior's Wish was really popular, and I roleplayed on there. You can also like discuss the books, but
my first ever
super fucking into
the first roleplay I remember being a part of, because like I was really into this board called Otaku Boards
Yeah.
for years. Like I got on there in 2003, and I was on there for probably 3 years, but it was like the 3 formative years of my life, so it felt like I'd been on there for my entire life.
Yeah.
You know, it was like basically ages 13 through 16. And this was like basically once I discovered the Mega Tokyo forums, I went less and less onto otaku boards because Mega Tokyo forums, like, otaku boards was very active when I got on there, and there were like individual boards for most of the like shows that were on Cartoon Network. But like by the time I was like 15 or 16, the anime aspect of it was pretty much dead. Like people were mostly there because it was a lot of like college students, like people around that age who were kind of friends with each other or just like, you know, enjoyed that. It was the biggest advantage of otaku boards was that it was highly discussion focused and everyone made long posts. Like there was no
That's fucking awesome.
There were no like one sentence posts or like super short stuff. Like the shortest posts were a paragraph and the longest posts would be like pages, you know? So like it was extremely discussion focused and sort of serious and a little elitist at that. And I was one of the younger people on there, and I was by far the most abrasive person on there. But I would write long, detailed posts, so it was kind of like one of those things where people didn't really like me because of my personality, but at least I was writing like lengthy, you know, like discussion pieces, and I was really into the discussion.
I would always post like super long shit too, especially on Warrior Cats like forums. I would discuss the books and stuff, but I was that person as well.
Yeah, I was always a long poster, and like, but that was normal on the website.
Yeah.
But and then I would have at various times I had like guys who were even younger than me who would super look up to me. Because, like, I've always had people who look up to me because I've been such a personality, you know? Like, even back then, even as a teenager, like a 14-year-old, like, I had such a distinctive writing style and such a, like, fuck you, I do what I want attitude that, like, some people would look up to that who were even younger. And so there was kind of, like... I had this reputation as, like, this terrible twofer where, like, I would come in and be a brat and then he would come in and be, like... also a brat, but whereas I can actually write competently, he would just be like barely comprehensible, you know, like straight autism mode. Because who else would admire me? But especially as a teenager, baby, I can't watch you fish anymore. This is fucking mind numbing. Why do you keep doing this?
Because I want to get the fishies.
There's so many other things you can do in this game.
Not at 1 in the morning. Not
go
at
to
1
bed.
in the morning.
If you go to bed, it resets it so it's morning again.
But
that's how you're supposed to play the game.
The no, it's not. You're supposed to fish.
Baby, I can't watch you fish. It's breaking me.
Okay, I'll stop fishing.
And you gotta sit up so you can tell stories.
Fine. Okay.
Anyway, so
do I just pass out even though I'm not tired?
Oh,
I leveled up. That's why.
Yeah, you can't. Oh,
I leveled up.
Hey. Yeah, on otaku boards there was a role playing forum, and they took their role plays very seriously. Again, because some forums would have role plays where it's like people have one sentence continuations. No, this was collaboratively writing a novel on this site. Everyone was very serious about their role plays, and like you would write like considerable amount, like at least a few paragraphs of every chapter. So the first one I remember being a part of, I was like 13, and it's funny you said what you reminded me of it because you said high school stories.
Yeah.
And the first one I was in was an interesting gimmick. All the ones I did, by the way, were gimmicks. Like none of them were just a role play. They always had a unique gimmick.
Yeah.
And this one's gimmick was that each of us controlled two characters, one who's a student and one who's a teacher. And the teachers pretty much were all evil, and the students are all
That would be so many
good
teachers
guys.
per student.
What do you mean?
Like if you each had one student and one teacher.
Well, yeah, like I mean, it's not like there was a teacher for every. This is like 10 people in this role play.
I know, I understand, but there's a lot of teachers and a lot of students.
Yeah. Well, the idea is that
the teachers have a bigger role because they're evil.
Yeah.
And the students are just like there's.
It's basically like a war between like the students are all like you know broken home 14-year-old like problem children, and the teachers are all like total fucking assholes. And yeah, we were going for a while, and like I basically, I could never figure, and this is a problem I had in all my role plays, is that I could never figure out how to make my character interact with the other characters. Like, other people would start having, like their characters would be...
I had that same problem too. Like,
yeah.
because I felt like I could never jump in with another conversation that's going on, and I never knew how to start conversations.
Like,
how to fucking initiate anything.
Other people would have their characters get, like, romantically involved and stuff
so
like
bad
that,
at that
you know?
shit.
And I just had no idea how to connect because I had my story I want to tell, you know? And, like, most of them had more emotionally driven stories. I wanted action. Because, like, our characters also had, like, psychic powers and shit like that. So, like, there was a lot of fighting. But, like, in my story, it was basically just all fighting. And, like, I didn't really see my narrative going anywhere. So I just kind of killed off my teacher and, like, wanted to make a new one.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, you can't just keep making up new characters because you don't like your old ones. Like, my characters had never really gotten involved in the narrative. And I'd already killed my teacher character. And then what eventually made it uncomfortable was one of the guys in there would post, like, because one of the rules in Otaku Board's role-playing, and I think this is true of most role-plays, is you can't post twice in a row.
Yeah.
Like, you're supposed to let somebody else have a turn. But this one dude was posting, like, in between every other, like, you know, like, there's, like, 10 people in here, and half of all the posts are this guy. Mm-hmm. And his whole story is, his guy's, like, a 14-year-old guy, but he's, like, the teacher's, like, his dad, but he's also, like, raping him. And, like, he just had so much, like, sexual stuff in his parts that it was really making me... Because I was, like, 14, maybe even 13 at this time. And I was like, this is a little uncomfortable for me.
Yeah,
you know, like,
even as a 22-year-old, I think that would make me uncomfortable.
Yeah, like... But I distinctly remember, and I've thought... this line has stuck with me ever since, because it was the first time I ever heard anything like this.
Yeah.
That the way that the older guy, like... you know, told, like, basically was telling him, I'm gonna fuck you, is he said something like, I need to warm up my cock between your butt, between your, like, in your ass, like, he said something like, my dick is cold and I need to warm it up, and, like, you know, using you, or something like that. And I was like, that stuck in my mind forever. This idea that, like, you are warm, like, that the ass is warm and the cock is warmed by, like, it haunted me forever.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
So that was the first roleplay I remember being a part of, and, like, once it started getting weird, everybody else just kind of lost interest. Like, I think it eventually got to a point where that guy had made the last post, and then nobody else made a post, because they just didn't want to continue anymore.
Yeah.
Which is usually how a roleplay ends. People just kind of give up on it. Do you have another one you want to... Do you have any, like, ones that you remember specifically, like... what happened or what the gimmick was that was entertaining?
A lot of them had to do with warrior cats, and they, like, the different sites you would go on would all have a different, like, plot line.
I see.
I was part of a bunch of different communities. Like, I would always jump between communities because for whatever reason something would piss me off, and I'd just be like, well, I'm too smart for these people, or oh, I don't really want my characters to be all lesbians, so which that has happened a couple of times.
I can easily see that.
Yeah.
How like many people were in the role plays that you were a part of?
It was a pretty populous community, but when you would hop onto, like, sites, because there's, like, main hub sites like Neopets and Warrior's Wish that would host, like, a bunch of different role playings. Right. And then there'd be stuff like fucking just some random website, and that'd probably only have, like, 20 members on it. There was one that I was in college because, like, at that time there weren't a lot of forums, and this one had about 500 members, but not all of them were active. But they had, like, really massive clans, and I had the most fun on that one because I think I was older.
When you were in role plays, was it, like, people just jumping into the story?
That was probably always me because I never stuck around for too long. I get really tired of my characters. Really fast.
Like, jumping into it, though.
Yeah.
Because on Otaku Boards, you could not just jump. Like, there was one forum. It was two different forums because, you know, like, on a list of boards. There was one board where it was the actual role plays, and then another one for discussion of the role plays. And if you launched one, you would launch it through starting a thread on the role play discussion board. And if you could get enough people on board, then you would start a role play.
That's how it was on Warriors Wish.
But
like,
you couldn't just like jump into them in the middle. Like sometimes if someone like really wanted to be in, and you could convince them to let you in. Like I remember a few times I begged to be in ones that were ongoing and I was not let in because the most interesting ones were run by the older people. Because like otaku boards, again, I was like one of the younger guys on there. There was a lot of like older teens and like college aged people on there who had way more interesting role plays because they could decently write, you know. So like I always wanted to be in their groups, but like they'd look at me like,
I don't want a stupid kid.
Yeah.
I never really had that problem in the Warriors community because I was like the template of a warrior cat fan.
Yeah.
They're all like middle school, high school like girls.
Right.
When I was in college though, and I went back to it, I was like the oldest person in the group, and everybody looked up to me. They're like, "Oh my god, you're in college and you're pretty? Oh fuck!" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm the coolest person here. I run this shit."
Well, now I gotta brag about the roleplay I'm the most proud of.
Yeah.
Because eventually I started running my own role plays.
Yeah.
Because I figured if I don't like the ones everyone else is doing, or like I just want to, make up my own world and be in control, because I'm a control freak about stories, I'll just make up my own. Though the first one I did was derivative, but I put a shitload of effort into it.
Yeah.
And it was because there was this guy who had made a role play called The Maze. And it was sort of based on the movie The Cube. Have you ever heard of the movie The Cube?
I've heard of it, yes.
Yeah, it's a movie where these people there's like an endless series of cube-shaped rooms that have like death traps in them, and these people are trying to escape. And every time they go into a new cube, there'll be a new like trap, essentially.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the plot of this role play, but here's the way it works.
Come at me, motherfucker.
It's that everybody creates 2 characters at the start of the game, but you do not control your characters.
Yeah.
And also nobody else knows who your characters are. All of them are secret. So everybody has created 2 characters, but they're just in the pool of characters, and everybody controls all of the characters. And there's different rounds of the role play. So in round 1, everybody gets 1 post, and they get 1 death card. At the end of your round, or at the end of your post, you post a death card and you kill one of the characters. So ultimately, you're trying to kill everybody else's characters, but you don't know whose characters are whose.
How did I make a wood fence?
And, you following this?
Yes,
this makes sense?
I'm following. I just don't understand how I made a wood fence. I guess I just crafted something.
Yeah, I guess there's crafting. So anyway, yeah, everybody has death cards, and you have to kill a character at the end of your post. So basically, it's like a death game thing.
Yeah.
And each round, we'll like take stock of who's alive.
This is really awesome.
Like whoever's running the role play will basically start each chapter with a post. Like they'll announce like what's happened and like put them like advance them to the next stage of the story, essentially. And then everybody makes their posts again. So this guy had run the maze, and I thought it was really fascinating, but I hadn't like gotten there in time to be a part of it. Or maybe I jumped in at the end or something, I don't remember. But like I had observed it. So I wanted to make a sequel. Mine was the Panopticon. Because, do you know what a Panopticon is?
No.
It's a prison design where there's a central...
Yes, I have heard of this. Wasn't it in fucking Guardians of the Galaxy? The first one?
Yeah, that was basically a Panopticon.
Okay.
Where from the center you can see into all the cells. So that you can monitor everything going on at all times.
Yeah.
And it's also the name of an ISIS album that I'm a fan of, so that's why it's a musical reference, as always. But it also kind of fit the theme of the story. So mine it's a sci-fi narrative where basically there's like these 2 gods, I believe named Cicatriz and Inertiatic, which are named after 2 songs from the Mars Volta album, The Louse in the Comatorium. and like they trap all these people. Now, what was great about this game is that the characters are not just humans, because they're taken from all over the universe.
Yeah.
So some people would have like all these weird alien characters and shit, and you'd have to like describe all the characteristics of their race and like what they're about and stuff like that in the opening thing, when you created the characters, and like so yeah, there was a lot of layers to this game, and like everybody would choose art, like, you know, you'd find artwork online of like whatever looks like your character and post it up. So yeah, it's all these alien people get trapped on a spaceship, and every time they enter a new room, it's a totally new challenge that they have to make it through, and somebody dies, and it's incredibly violent and fucked up and psychological, and you know, it's like any other death game story. They're all the same. This is why I hate death game stories so much, because I feel like the one I did when I was 14 was better than all of them, because mine was so fucking far out there where like, because literally anything could happen. It was a sci-fi
My favorite
setting,
death game is the Hentai Euphoria. It's a pretty good death game.
Oh, I know that one.
Yeah.
That one's got like lots of piss in it, though.
It has lots of piss. Piss is okay.
I don't like the aesthetic of that game. Yeah, it's too like I'm not a fan of the super in your face aesthetic, you know. I know you like that aesthetic a lot more. But anyways, so
female-oriented pornography.
Yeah.
What are definitions of female-oriented pornography?
Aim plunge, baby.
Aim
plunge. Obviously, I don't think that is actually that, by the way, in case anyone was wondering. That's what I thought at the time. I think we both agree that the stupid priest porn was supposed to be female-oriented, though.
And it definitely didn't appeal to me, so maybe I'm a dude.
So anyways, I don't think it appealed to anyone. So the Panopticon, here's how I ran it terribly, because I simultaneously ran it awesomely and terribly. The awesome part was that I went so far all out on creating graphics and shit. Like
oh my god,
like when you played a card, like a death card, there was like image macros and everything. So like I'd created tons of images for all the characters, for all the cards. I'd created like videos that were like my first ever YouTube posts. I don't think they're still public, but they are still up on YouTube on the Modal Soul Productions channel. Is like, one is just like a siren going off and saying like, warning, inertiatic system initiated, or something like that. And like I just uploaded that and like had it, you know, in there so you could listen to this as like the atmosphere for the post. I think I would even put like music suggestions of like what you should listen to while you read this part, you know, kind of stuff like that.
That's fucking awesome.
And I would go way all out with like colored text at different places and like just all kinds of multimedia shit for it. But I also took way too much control, because I, again, really wanted to be a part of the best way to do this kind of post, or this kind of RP, is to take a back seat. Like, you're just supposed to be the manager of it, you know?
Yeah.
You pop in to let everybody know when things are changing, but I had 2 characters in the game myself. I had my own death cards, so I'm killing characters along with everybody else.
Yeah.
And every time we enter a new chapter, I would write a massive fucking post where I would change the whole nature of everything, like including the nature of characters and like their personalities and stuff.
This is fucking awesome.
Because I had
you're the coolest fucking person. I know that makes you like an asshole, but like this is amazing.
There was one part where like at the beginning of the final section, like I had 2 of the characters get trapped in like a black void of nothing for like what they experienced as like thousands of years. And so by the end of it, they are no longer in any way resemble the characters that had been crafted in the story up to that point. And of course I always had like weird sexual stuff too, where like when the characters were trapped in a void, like one character just like masturbates until she's covered in cum.
I never got sexual in roleplays, but I always wanted to.
I had 2 characters who didn't have personalities that they would ever have sex, but because they were trapped in this void for so long, I made them have sex. And people weren't happy about that, but I was like, I mean, I think that's realistic.
Yeah.
Should I have taken the story in that direction? No. But I thought it worked. But, like, the reason the story ended up functioning is that, see, while I was the youngest, most, like, you know, abrasive person in there, the people who I had in this roleplay were all the best writers on the website. Like,
Yeah.
all college dudes who were, like, really good. And so, like, I would write my edgy bullshit, and then they would write some, like, really hard-hitting, like, creative sci-fi shit that was awesome.
Fucking dope.
Especially this one dude who was, like, particularly smart, and he wrote, like, some crazy-ass, like, final chapters and stuff for it. But, and I think his character won, too, just incidentally. But, like, yeah, so this story, it got really fucking insane, and eventually, like, you know, it made it to the end, and it ran all the way through. It's the only roleplay I ever participated in that went from beginning to end, like, in spite of people's problems with it. And there was one way I really fucked up, where at the start of the last chapter, I had announced that one of the players had lost both of their characters, and everyone was
shit.
upset because they were like, dude, you're not, like, you can't say that because now it ruins the mystery. And, like, basically the way I saw it was she can't have death cards because, you know, like, she like, it would be imbalanced, you know, like, it would unbalance the game to give her a death card. But, like, everyone was really pissed off that I'd announced that. So instead I gave her a cat card where, on her round, she got to turn a character into a cat. So one of the characters just was a cat from then on. And then, I think someone had her get sat on and killed. Which was fucking hilarious.
Good. Good.
But yeah, it ended up being pretty great. And, yeah, so that's the one I'm the most proud of, and I'd love to do something just like it again.
I would totally be down to fucking do something like that.
Yeah.
That sounds fucking amazing.
But I just, again, every story I made would go so far into the realm of, like, weird, insane meta shit.
It should.
You know? And then after that point, I kept trying to launch ones that would never really go anywhere. Like, I wanted to do one called The Shotgun Dance, but I don't remember what it was about, and nobody signed up. And then there was one called Esper Jam, which was about a bunch of people with psychic powers, and, like, I don't remember if there was, like, a school involved or anything. That one didn't really take off, but one that did was Shinigami, I think it was also called, or no, Death God Disco. That's what it was called.
Death God Disco.
All of my
Yeah.
all of my things were like noun and then, like, type of dance.
Yeah.
You know, Shotgun Dance, Esper Jam, Death God Disco.
Holy shit.
Death God Disco, each character was a god of death, and like they were all Shinigamis, and, like, it was a really interesting concept. And for the first round of posts, it was good, but then it came down for me to try to construct a narrative, and I had no idea what to do. Like,
Yeah.
I am a terrible DM, and this is why I haven't written any books, is because I don't know how to write a fucking plot, you know? Like, I can come up with characters all day, I can come up with really interesting ideas, but I can't think of a story. And so that's why Shinigami, or Death God Disco, did not go very far. And
That's so sad.
yeah, and that was kind of the last one. After that, I burned out on trying to do role plays, and I don't think I've done any since. And that was probably when I was 15.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was pretty much all between the ages of, like, 13 and 15.
Yeah, that's when I'd say my bulk of role playing was. I did go back to it when I was, like, a freshman in college. So I just, like, I didn't go out and party. So, like,
Yeah.
Friday and Saturday night, all my friends were doing shit. And I'm like, I'm just gonna fucking role play. That ended quickly.
I was so fucking proud of the Panopticon, though, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
that sounds fucking dope, dude.
it probably ran for, like, 3 months total. It was awesome. And that's our stories with role plays, I guess. Unless you had any more you wanted to talk about.
I don't remember the details of any. I just remember, like...
I want to write stories now.
Me too.
I keep forgetting about... I always forget about Flash fiction. But I love... Like, it's really weird. back when I was trying to become a writer, I wrote a lot of it. Like, I have a bunch of flash fics, and, like, I kind of just forgot that in the time after becoming an analyst. And I only remembered when I recorded, I wrote this light novel in, like, a day. It sucks and I hate it. And, like, going back through my notebooks, I was finding all these flash fics. I'm like, what the fuck? I wrote, like, 100 of these things, you know?
Yeah.
I had, like, I had one Tumblr called, like, Yuri every day or something, where I was trying to write a Yuri flash fic every day. So it was like one just called like lesbians on motorcycles. It was just about lesbians on motorcycles and like.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I have tons of flash fics. I should write more. I had a great idea for one. Not like after I wrote this light novel in like a day. I was gonna start up a flash fic series, and I had one really good idea, but I never got around to writing it, and that's pretty much why I didn't start the flash fic series. But and I can still basically remember what it was. It's about a guy selling his games at GameStop that takes a twist turn. I should write it. Is that it?
I think that's it.
You down to?
I am done with this game
this
for
episode
this
and game?
moment at time. I'm fucking farmed
Do you think you
out.
want to keep playing this game?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Cool. Next time on Digi May, more Farmville.
Yeah. Bye bye.